Welcome to Vintage Weights PGH. This is a Texas power bar. It's a modern Texas power bar with black zinc and bare steel. In this video, I'll break down the history of Texas power bars just in case you don't listen to Massonomics and hear the story of buddy caps 5 to 10 times a podcast. I'll also get into the restoration of this bar to include the disassembly and reassembly of this double roll pin secured sleeve. And last but not least, I'll give a little review of my thoughts on the Texas power bar. Let's get started with the history and the before video. Back in the 1960s, Buddy Capps, a former Texas state powerlifting champion, noticed that barbells had little to no grip, that the sleeves were held by a threaded end cap, and that the collars were fixed in place by a set screw, causing 3 pieces to have to be put together. Starting in the 1980s, Buddy Capps put out the Texas Power Bar in conjunction with Mac Equipment. However, after a falling out, it turned out that Mac Equipment owned the rights to the Texas Power Bar, and Buddy had to redesign it. Mac Equipment is now out of business, and Buddy Capps' Texas Power Bars are still going strong. So after a coating of 3-in-1 oil last night, I haven't even wiped it down yet, and the shaft that's coated in black zinc is looking great. The sleeves, on the other hand, this sleeve that I've removed from the other end, I used a wire wheel on, and it helped a lot. It's looking a lot better than this other one that I haven't hit with the wire wheel, but there's still quite a bit of rust. I could keep it like this, but I really want to clean this up the best I can. So at this point, I'm going to disassemble and take the sleeves, and I'm going to soak them in oxalic acid to then hit them again with the wire brush and try to bring them back to their full, bright, shiny glory. How do you disassemble? Well, let me take this down here and show you. So you'll need some special tools because it's a little more than just a hex bolt on the end. There's that famous cap here, but Texas bars have 2 roll pins. A roll pin goes through the hole, and then what makes the Texas bar unique as compared to like a York split sleeve that has a roll pin is that these go through this center portion, and that's what holds it on, keeping this portion recessed and holding it on both sides steady so that it can revolve around. It's a unique concept. But to remove them, what you need is called a punch set. I got mine from Amazon, fairly cheap. I'll drop a link on my link tree, and of course, if you shop through there, a couple pennies will roll my way, and I appreciate that. I'm always buying more 3-in-1 oil or brushes. That's where I use that. Couple of dollars. But this punch set, roll pin punch set, is doing the job. I use the 7/32 punch to take out the pin, and then just a tip, well, 2 tips really. Use a rubber mallet, and secondly, raise the bar so that it has somewhere to go on the other side. You'd be surprised how many times I forgot to do that and I was hitting into concrete. Once you get the pins moving, you can also turn it sideways and then hit from the side. And lastly, if this initial punch gets stuck in there and you're like, oh my gosh, I've ruined my barbell, relax. Use a smaller punch and just tap with the mallet to get your punch out. Now that I've got it disassembled, I'm going to soak the sleeves, and while they're soaking, I'll work on the shaft. After wiping down, I found that there's still some things in the knurling. I don't know whether it's just built up chalk residue or what, but a little bit of the brass brush does the trick. I don't want to go too hard for fear of damaging what's left of the black zinc. However, I have found that black zinc fades over time, and that seems to be the case in some areas of this bar. Here's a spot here, for example, with what I was talking about, down in the knurling. And if I give it a good scrub, it starts to take it out. After I finish that up, I'm going to hit it with 3-in-1 again, let it soak. Might as well. I have the sleeves soaking over here. So I've got plenty of time to let that 3-in-1 do its magic and get in there before a final wipe down. So it's been about 10 hours, and just by looking at the sleeves, you can see what's formed here. They look much better, even before scrubbing them. But I'm going to take a nylon brush first, give them a nice scrub. And then after I give them a scrub, wow, they are looking nice. At least this one is. Then it's important to spray with a baking soda solution to neutralize the acid. Give this guy a spray. And then after I do that, I'm going to get the wire brush to hit some of these parts. And lastly, dry it off and use some 3-in-1 oil before reassembling. So I let the oil sit for a while, about an hour, and then taking the wire wheel, this will show you the difference. You see that? No wire wheel, wire wheel. Definitely have safety glasses on. The wires will fly out of here, so that's why I'm doing it in my garage, not in my home gym. And quite simply, take it to it. They are looking pretty good after the first pass with the wire wheel. I'm going to let them soak in oil overnight and then hit them with a second pass of the wire wheel just to really even things out, because at least my first pass, since I'm doing wire wheel on a drill, there's just a little clouds, little splotches here and there. And I want it to be a nice, even consistency. Now that we've taken a look at how to restore it, and as you can see, it's looking great, let's take a closer look at the finished version. I'm very happy with the way that the bare steel sleeves turned out. Black zinc is known to fade, so there's only so much I could do with it. I wasn't able to take away the scratches either, but I was able to clean it up, get the chalk out of the knurling, and get the parts that weren't scratched back into shape. There wasn't anything I could do about the fading. I do have an idea to use a process to blacken a bar, the same way you would blue a bar, if you know that process of oxidation, that I might use on this in the future. And now for a quick review. I have really enjoyed lifting with the Texas Power Bar for a couple different reasons. One of the big reasons would be the knurling. If you take a look here, I'll get as close as I can. This knurling is sharp. It really sticks to the hands. It really grips very well. I also really like that the Texas Power Bar is a slightly smaller diameter than the Rogue Ohio Power Bar. For squats and bench, it might feel really good to have that thicker diameter on the Rogue Ohio Power Bar. However, when deadlifting, it's really nice to have a bit smaller, the way you would on a deadlift bar. And if you're blessed with the luxury of having both of these bars, or others, it's just nice to have a little variation. So when I switched one week from Ohio Power Bar to Texas Power Bar, it was a nice surprise in a way to find the smaller diameter. You may have noticed that the thicker inner collar here, the donut if you will, means that the sleeve, the loadable sleeve length, is less than the Rogue Ohio Power Bar. I have lofty goals in life, but I'm in my 40s and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to suffer from the lack of this inch of loadable sleeve length that is given up. And aesthetically, I kind of like the thicker donut. This is the first bar that I've ever had with the black zinc, and I do not like the black zinc. Not so much for the feel. The feel is fine. It actually, as far as feel goes, I like it. It's very close to the feel of bare steel. But I don't like it because of the propensity for scratching and fading. I'd rather just have a bare steel bar. Overall, I absolutely love the Texas Power Bar. I'm happy to add it to my collection and I'll be using it frequently. This is VintageWeightsPGH. Please like and subscribe. Old weights, new gains.